Hello there, you beautiful soul, and welcome back to another Culture Talks segment with your host and founder of Cultured Society, Rebecca Munoz. I am here with another special guest today, and we are here in Mexico. I am in a different location than he is today, but I am just so honored to have this guest with me to dive deep in life philosophies. And if you have not been a part of these conversations yet, I encourage you to go through this playlist and take a look and dive deep into the minds and experiences of all of these guests that have joined me on these Culture Talk conversations. I was so inspired to have these conversations as his boosters. I was so inspired to have these conversations because we are living in a time today where we need to talk more about life philosophies, experiences, perspectives, and just give the space for people to share their stories without any judgments or any opinions that don't really have anything to do with love. And we've experienced so much, I like to say that we've experienced so much disruption within our lives over the past year. Over the past decade, I really feel like it's just been an ongoing series of changes that our world has been experiencing. And I like to say that it really is a choice and your perception to be able to experience these changes and these disruptions as a way to awaken to something greater within you. We each have a specific DNA code that we were brought here to this earth to fulfill. Are you staying stagnant and living in the past? Or are you actually being in this present moment and looking at your future with hope and with joy and happiness, and recognizing that every single day we have an ability and an opportunity to change the narrative of our story. We don't have to live in our history. We don't have to live in our dysfunction. We don't have to live in our bad habits, our toxic behaviors. At any given point, we can make a choice to make changes that are going to benefit the overall well-being that we live in today. And our bodies are such miraculous vessels that really regenerate itself whenever we give it exactly what it needs. And these guests here today are here to share their stories and to be able to share their perspectives on what has really impacted them, inspired them, and just motivated them every single day to continue to do what it is that they have been brought to this earth to do. And I like to say that even though we may look different, we may come from different places, at the end of the day, we're all the same. We all have very similar components that we're made up of. We have blood that flows through our veins. We have a heart, we have a beating heart, we have legs, we have arms, we have a mouth to speak, we have a brain, right? But we all, again, are living in different dimensions of time. We have different experiences. And that is why it's your responsibility to be able to share what you're going through, to be able to inspire other people to speak their truth so that we could all be living in divine purpose. So with this, I introduce my amazing and beautiful guest, the visual translator, Saba. Saba is one of many Indigenous refugees digging his way back to his roots through art, family, and community. Finding a balance between two different worlds, fusing his graffiti art with a heavy Indigenous presence, hoping to relay the message to a younger audience that his people are not extinct. We are here and have always been. The Rockwalls say it all. And with this, I introduce the amazing Saba. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me on. Thank you all for tuning in and listening to us ramble like we do very well. Everything you said is going on right now. So again, thank you for having me on today, and it's just the way of life at this point. Sometimes it's a roller coaster ride for me. One day I'm having, just a crazy good time, and the other day, it's got to keep the balance.
Absolutely.
And how we take that balance and and use it to our advantage is what I think is what we need to really really continue to do and embrace, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we're going to talk more about that as we go into this conversation. As I mentioned before, this series it's actually started back in February. And the whole purpose of it was just to bring on different guests that I have interacted with throughout about the last 25 years of my life. And Saba, I just so happened to meet last year while I was driving down Picacho Avenue in Las Cruces, New Mexico. I stopped to appreciate this beautiful display of art, and he just so happened to see me there. And, he approached me. I'd never met this man before in my life, had never seen him before. So I was a little bit cautious and I wasn't sure, what he was if he was even trying to approach me or whatnot. But he caught my attention and we ended up having an amazing 2 days of interaction. And I started to learn about his story, what he's doing here in the city, in the community, within the community, with all the work that he's doing. And that's really why I was inspired to bring on a lot of the other guests that I brought on, because every single person that you will come into contact with through these interviews are all doing something very specific for their own life purpose. And it is creating waves, it is creating impact. And, I came up with a series of questions to talk about life philosophies and even how the person evolved into the person that they are now, because we need to understand that as a humanity, we are a never ending evolution. If you're not changing, you're not living. If you're not taking every single day as a new creation, as a new opportunity for you to create something new, you're really living in stagnant waters. You're not really doing and living up to your fullest potential. And so these conversations are really meant to activate you and to recognize that you too have a message and you too have a divine purpose that you can fulfill even just by telling your story. So I want to start off by asking the very first question that I have asked every single guest, and all these questions are the same, but the conversations tend to unfold so differently because, again, every single person is having a very different experience. So it gives you an opportunity to really dive deep into the conscious mind of the person that you're listening to, and also to empathize, to extend compassion, grace, understanding, love, and just be inspired. So with this, I start off this conversation of life philosophies and culture. Saba, what is your life's philosophy?
My life's philosophy. Well, first off, my name is Saba. I am a graffiti artist. And I rep the Navajo and Jemez Pueblo tribes from northern New Mexico. I was raised up in Farmington, and then moved to Albuquerque when I was 21 and kind of grew up there. That's what I say, because back home where I'm from, the border town of Farmington, I didn't do a whole lot of growing. Again, it was the stagnant water that you speak of, where they tell you you're just an alcoholic. You're not, you're going to grow up to be an alcoholic, and that's really all you're going to do, because again, your DNA says you're going to be an alcoholic. And I'm like, okay, that may be scientifically proven, but prior to alcohol's appearance, we had no alcoholism. So I have no idea where that kind of, rule or that symptom or those ways are affecting us, right? Because we believe it. we say, oh, I'm destined to be an alcoholic, so I might as well just, be one. I couldn't do that. I watch most of my family drink their lives away and pass, and had to bury them with my own hands. Because again, in the Native communities, we do things differently, right? But I don't think it's too different. I think it's the way we've done it for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Who knows how long? So I trust my community in that situation, right? Because it's when you're dealing with death or with life, it's very, very sacred times, right?
Absolutely.
So anyway, living through those experiences and seeing it in real life, and seeing how the industry will play on your heartstrings to sell you a $5,000 coffin for a dead person makes no sense to me. I don't know. That's how America does it, though. I got to get a loan for this casket that we're gonna just throw in the dirt.
I know it.
Sorry, it's a crazy, stupid metaphor, but it is very, very important that you do not get a loan for this casket. You say, hey, look at the Indians right down the street. They don't even use a casket, and we don't, because we're supposed to go back to the earth, and a casket only prolongs that reunion. Wow, that sounded so great. So that's kind of where my philosophy starts, and where it began as well was, I couldn't believe during the process of a funeral that all these items are trying to be sold to somebody.
Mhm.
And it's like, dude, leave me alone with the fucking budget for now. Let me just mourn. Let me pay attention and respect the life of this person, right? Instead of having to fill out all this paperwork. The same as when you're born, right? Why do we got to do all this stuff? I mean, there's probably reasons, but when you look at it, my grandmother was born at home. There's a whole movement of midwifery,
Yes.
and self-sustainability at home. And honestly, the parents are way more comfortable at home than with all these lights and strangers and mechanical devices that are used to life support, right? Those are scary things when they come into the room, because I know if I'm laying on the bed and a life support comes in, I don't think I would want it, because again, it's not our right to keep people here longer than they want to be.
Absolutely.
Or is it? I don't know. Again, that's where it comes down to the individuals. And again, I come back to how we did it in our processes of where my communities, my community, the Navajo and the Pueblo people, and to those communities, we do it a little different as well, but it all is in cahoots with honoring the person, the earth, and respecting everything about it,
Absolutely.
So just those little questions and those little truths that go through your head in those situations are probably are facts, like, I'm not supposed to drop all this money on this, because that just provides more stress for the rest of the family, so anyway, that's how I started my journey. I call it a tradition mission, back to my roots, right? Shout out to the hip hop culture community that is still alive and well here in New Mexico. And when I say that, it's breakdancing, graffiti, DJing, philosophizing, all of this stuff, you know, and emceeing, of course, which everybody knows is a really a prime reason why I'm practicing today, because hip hop, you know, when I say hip hop, usually comes to keep it real, right? Like old school hip hop, breakdancing, that's where people are at, like Indians, right? Old school Indians running around in feathers, not in a hat or self-screen printed t-shirt with Nikes, you know, but here we are, look, the next
Yes.
generation, you
Oh
know.
my goodness.
This is autumn. They found me, I'm outside.
Hi, baby girl. Hi, sweetheart. You're so beautiful. She looks just like mom.
Yep, she does.
Hi. Hi.
You know, so back to what I was saying about just noticing those little truths and you know, and calling on them, you know, in the moment. If I never asked, well, do we really need a casket? If I never asked the salesman that and said and brought up my ancient ways and the way we've done it, then he was like, oh, you're talking about the traditional way, which was in the back, right? Tucked away, which basically they got to pay us. I don't know. You know, it was just, that option wasn't given. It was,
Right.
here's the Cadillac version in your budget, you know, and this is what your family members did. And I'm like, no, well, this is me. This is my family, and this is how we've done it forever. So yeah, and it worked. They didn't give in. They have to offer this, but they don't. They offer the golden package version, you know. And
Well, unless
so
you're really deeply rooted and you understand the truth, right? A lot of times people aren't even going to they're too scared, right? To mention it. They're too scared to question. It's like, well, this is the option that's given to me. So that's obviously all that exists. But no, it's really important for you to understand your truths, your philosophies, your traditions, and even know your rights.
yes, that's what it
Right.
is. It absolutely is. Your rights, what your rights are. I mean, I can't even stress it enough. Um, part of the reason why I think like I do, and my whole campaign started in boarding school, right? So we've heard all of these boarding school atrocities and crazy things that happen to these children. And really, it didn't take a crazy, terrible story of, you know, child murder to get my attention. What grabbed my attention was so my grandparents' last name is Clarkey, right?
Clarky?
Clarkey. And after 15 years, 18 years, maybe 20 even, I finally approached my grandmother and I said, hey, Grandma, I said, just one question. I said, I know we're Navajo, right? We're Diné, we have our own language and our own history. But how in the heck did we become the Clarkies? It sounds like the Griswolds. Sorry, Grandma, everybody, you know. But I just had to ask that question finally when I gained enough strength and and just the question itself was so important to my understanding of who we are. Was I had to hit her with that question, and I don't think any of us had as the grandchildren. So she told me just how it happened. When my grandfather, she said, when my grandfather was taken away to boarding school, they had him lined up, and they were just giving new names. My grandfather had a Navajo name, which I didn't get or ask, or she didn't tell me. But she said the guy who couldn't say his name, so they said, well, now your name is Stephen Clarkey. And from my perspective, my grandfather was a World War II veteran. He made it through Tom Hanks's version on the beach, right? I don't know if you've seen that movie, but it was a fucked up beginning. And if you live through that, you're like, you're the ultimate warrior, right? And in my head, it just, I couldn't understand how somebody could change this warrior survivor's name, right? Nobody's messing with my grandpa. And then she told me he was 5 years old.
Wow.
And then it just was like, that's why, that's how it's become this way. They took the kids and, and made them that way.
Yeah.
So I don't know, that just the power of somebody being able to do that to somebody else was to tell you the truth, is very empowering, right? So if somebody can do that to us, then I could do that to somebody else, but with these messages, with my perspective, and with my ways of life and philosophy and whatever, right?
But it's not even like, I'm sorry to interrupt, but you're not, with your message, you're not taking anybody's identity. You're actually helping people identify themselves to their core.
Yes.
And it was taken away from your grandfather. His identity was taken away from him.
Literally. And again, that's what was so infuriating when I finally put the dots together, right? Because before that question, I was just an American, meaning that I wanted to be an American. I wanted to go to college and get all this stuff, right? The American dream. And and honestly, I wasn't so proud of being an Indian, right? You hear these stories of kids playing cowboys and Indians, and I'm like, dude, I don't want to get killed all the time. I'm like, come on, let me win for once.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what my purpose is, my sole purpose is, again, to hold space, to let people know that we are still here.
Yes.
And after that question, it just got crazier. That question of how the name changed, right? So now I'm like, okay, well, I got Saba is my last name. This is my daughter's account, by the way. That's why it says Patient Saba. But so Saba is Jemez Pueblo, and then I wasn't brought up in that village. I was brought up more in the Navajo side. So I have a whole nother identity that resides somewhere else, and as a kid, we would go and visit. They have feast days where they let the public into the village and everybody eats, and the family members, we keep the ties. And anyway, luckily we still had that connection, and my mom still took me to that side. And just as I got older, I took my own initiative to go meet my family, hear the stories, learn the ways, and participate in that society. Yet I can't fully go over because it's still, it's like Catholics and Christians, right? Jesus is both involved, but different storylines or whatever. Who knows? Same thing kind of in Pueblo and Navajo. The respect is there, the earth is there, the everything is there, but just different ways of acknowledging different songs, different movements, right? Again, back to hip hop. DJing represents the drum, which is the heartbeat, which ignites everybody, right? So that's the second one is it's not even in order, but the DJ usually starts the beat, right? The line, the vibe. Then the MC introduces everybody, brings in, acknowledges everybody. I'm a graffiti writer. The artists, the visuals are listening and processing and putting it out. And then of course the dancers are the focus, the energy, in the middle of the cipher, the circle. Their energy is creating the whole show, right? And we're all there. The ones that can't dance, that don't like to dance, that won't dance, are putting our energy into the dancers so they can commune with the higher ups, yes. Right? And pay the sacrifices for the fruits and vegetables that we grow and come from the earth, right? Just basic shit, basic knowledge that every child should know.
Absolutely.
And we're not. We're taught that Walmart and McDonald's is our only way to source food, and sometimes is the only way to source food. But again, this atrocity is happening right now. I'm an Indian. I'm barely growing anything, I want to grow more weed than food right now because that's the climate.
Totally.
But it's also a medicine, like they say. And
but also people are using that as an excuse, right? Because oftentimes they're using that, which should be for medicinal purposes, they're using it for an escape. Same True. With food. Same with food, True. Same with alcohol. It's keeping our society and our cultures in an oppressive state. And if you're using, these tools, these resources as a way for you to stay connected, right? For you to be able to heal your body, your mind, your spirit, then that's a different story. But our culture is not teaching us that. It's almost like you have to take your own matters into your own hands. I mean, just like I did, I come from a culture that's very oppressed too. And I escaped from that. You know what I mean? I wasn't going to use that as an excuse to throw my life away. And we're seeing that so much in our land right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's really depressing when you look at the state of our food and the I don't know, the trust we have in these giant companies that don't even see us. They just see dollar signs, and then they produce this food that doesn't even reproduce. And you are what you eat, I guess, I guess that's what they're trying to do, is keeping us from reproducing, so we just keep this reliance of manufactured goods.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know what I mean? But I know when COVID started, I did start to grow, and you can hear my chicken, my rooster right now. I got a rooster, or we did. You know, the world's ending. We need food. So we went and got eggs. And now we have so many eggs, we know what to do with, you know, and we got to share it, hopefully, you know, or it just, I don't know. At least we're doing the process. I brought up the marijuana issue with New Mexico, right? And it's an issue now that it's legal, I think, or it's going to be an issue. But nonetheless, the industry is growing, right? Literally, and I guess in the sense of that people are moving here, the economy is going to grow, whatever. But right now, if you look at our industry that New Mexico deals with, it's oil and gas.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the extractive industry, the contaminating and killing of our fields in which we grow our food. At least we're supposed to. But no, I want to say, go ahead and drill on my land on the reservation so I can pay for this new car with the pennies that you're going to give me over a certain amount of time. That's not a great deal for me, being brought up in this capitalistic industry. So I say, hey, how about you not drill on my land so my land, the soil is still good to grow on, and I'm gonna try out some weed. I'm gonna try to grow some weed. That might get old, or it might just get too political or too business. But at least I'm gonna know how to fucking grow a tomato after I learn how to grow weed, rather than after drilling oil, I'm gonna know how to dig a fucking hole so I can bury myself in it. Sorry. Get a little passionate, but you know what I mean? Just those philosophies or those ways of thinking don't add up to my 5-year-old. You know what I mean?
No, it's crazy. Well, so you had mentioned earlier that the question to your grandmother came up when you had enough courage to even ask the question, and then even things started changing in boarding school. So my next question, and you've pretty much already answered it, but how has that philosophy evolved over the years, especially now that you have children and a family and the businesses that you're running?
Well, it's easy to say you want to save the world. You could say it. We can all say it. I want to save the world. But after I shut this off and get up and do what I need to do I actually go out and try to save the world? I don't know. After thinking about it, it's too hard to fathom saving the entire planet. Right? So now it just comes to my family. But then my family, I don't even want to dictate whatever they're going to do. Right? So I don't even try not to worry about my family as much as I should, more about myself. Right? So again, you hear it all the time. You can't help somebody if you need help. Right? So it's just a constant state of recognizing what you need to get over that hump, to feed your family, to teach your family, to teach your kids. My growing up on the res and in the border town where alcoholism and drug abuse is crazy, right? And you know, and I watched my family endure, you know, the pain of hangovers and coming down, but also witnessing the fun that they had the nights prior was like, wow, that was so much fun, you know? Because it's full of laughter, right? Full of joking and whatever. but then you wake up in the morning and was that all worth it?
Right.
I don't know how, shout out to my homies that are still killing the game in terms of partying and all of that, because you are stronger than I am. And your livers are probably way stronger than mine and shot. But, watching your parents die from cirrhosis is terrible.
Yeah.
It's not fun at all. It's a slow death. And I don't wish it upon anybody, and including myself, right? So being brought up, I witnessed how to do those acts and do them really well, right? And I did it to the fullest in my life, and ended up with mad hangovers, nights in jail, and just stupid stuff that I would never really want to do or have my children, see me do. And, so I just I stepped back and I said, well, alcohol was the reason, right?
Culprit.
And looking back in my life, I watched my family drink. And so I did, right? But in changing the world and saving the world, at least in my world, I'm not going to show my children how to do that. And that's the only thing that I can do in terms of hopefully changing the world. I'm not going to show them how to party or show them how to drink. They party all the time because I throw parties. But you know what I mean? It's they're not going to say, well, my dad did that. Well, they might write on walls and get in trouble. Then that's that. I'll have to deal with that. But at least it's not harming them, or not having them harm somebody else, right? Drinking and driving, is the real pandemic we have,
absolutely,
within our local communities.
Side note and fun fact, it may not be fun for you people who drink, and there's no judgment here, because
no judgment.
No judgment, because I lived a very wild and free life majority of my life. But there is it's the definition of alcohol in Arabic. It's pronounced alcohol. And the meaning behind the word alcohol is body eating spirits. Body eating spirits. Think about that. Think about what alcohol over the course of time, and even if you yourself drink often, if you know of people who are alcoholics, some type of addiction, think about what it does to the human body, how it impacts your ability to think straight. And especially drinking. Drinking is definitely the culprit to a lot of suicides, accidents, just like mishaps in this world that could have been prevented if you were in your conscious mind. So think about it, body eating spirits. Next time you decide to drink alcohol that is going to debilitate your ability to think straight. And this actually goes into my next question. How has your upbringing and circle of influence impacted the way you live and think today?
Well, shout out to the Natives Remain crew, More Than Gold, Neoglyphics, and Giving America the Shits crew. Absolutely. And I shout them out because those are my affiliations in the hip hop world, right? So your rites of passage, so to speak, when I don't know, when you're accepted, right? That's the biggest thing with the society, right? Is if you're accepted or not. And most people get asked, to come and join a DJ crew, right? You're a badass DJ, dude. You do it so well. Your songs flow right into the next. And hey, do you want to be a part of our DJ crew, right? And here you are, just some nerd in the bedroom, 24 hours a day, with no friends, and it's weird to be accepted to that, right? Because I don't know, being a graffiti artist, my medium was never to be told, never to be talked about. You're not even supposed to know my name, Saba, right? Because it might be on a wall somewhere, and you're not supposed to know I wrote that, because it might be your grandma's house and you'll call the cops on me. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but it's a great wall, and I don't know, it's just, when somebody says, hey, I love the way you wrote on that wall, come and join our crew so we can write on more walls. And I'm like, fuck, for reals? Just so overly, like, there's a whole society of graffiti writers that write on shit that they're not supposed to. Can you believe it? Just like a whole society of Reader's Digest people that read that little book every day. And I'm like, holy shit, I love this book, And it's just so liberating to do it with other people.
Absolutely.
Right? Rather than locked up in a room by yourself, or running around in the middle of the night, dodging the police and dogs and all this stuff, which that's fun. But who really wants to do that at 40 years old with a family and all this stuff, right? So naturally, we got to gravitate towards non-violent or non-illegal ways of practicing this form. So then we organize these events, we organize art shows and ways of bringing community together under one roof that practice this dance, so to speak, right? Or if we don't, we got a bigger room with the four elements: the dancers, the DJs, the MCs, and the graffiti writers, all working together, because the rap star is going to need some merchandise to sell on the road, and vice versa. All of this, right? We're going to need a stage to paint on while the rapper is singing, so people can see our visual art. And just to be accepted to that society and that community alone is a true blessing. It's like you're this Disney character that isn't even existing yet. And then somebody sees you and they're like, hey, come work at Disneyland, And you got a whole bunch of characters that work together to create this experience for the entire world.
Mm-hmm.
To walk away with, like, oh my God, did that really happen? Like, even though it was a made up facade and we were acting, but the consumer walks away with a greater sense of, like, holy shit, we can do whatever we want in this world, right? And if we don't, we got to pay for it,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And me, I don't have no money, so we got to do
it. Well, what's great is that you found a way to be able to monetize, and that's not a bad thing. I mean, people think that, oh, you're monetizing off of it, like, work that should at one point was illegal. Like, no, we all have these really creative gifts that we have the ability to monetize on, and to be able to do more of that, because the more that we're operating in our natural giftings and actually being compensated for it, the more of it we can put out. One, two, the more we can inspire people to do the same, and even just circulate that energy, right? Because if they're not creating it, they're purchasing it, they're putting it in their homes. They're part of this community of circulation of gifts. And that is the most beautiful thing. That's the ultimate goal, is to be able to utilize our resources, our money, right? To be able to circulate and to be able to create more of that magic that all of us have in us. It's such a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. It's it it's a double-edged sword. And I say this because, again, graffiti, hip hop is my first culture, right? My first community, I guess. Meaning that hip hop brought me back to my original community, my indigenous roots, right? Again, keeping it real. How do you know who you are if you don't know who you are? How can you rap about something you don't know about, or paint about something you don't know about? And and that's where the double edge comes in, because I didn't include this industry with the oil and gas and all that other stuff that I talked about New Mexico having, because they don't like to talk about it. Because when you tell somebody, hey, I love you for your earrings, right? You should hang out because we need those earrings. They're just gonna say, hey, what are you doing? You gonna stay here? You should stay here. No, you know what? Stay for a while. But they're not gonna say they ever want your earrings, because you have them, unless they steal it, right? And then they manufacture it somewhere else on the planet and get it sent back by the bulk, and then sell it here in New Mexico as Rebecca's earrings, right? Or they got a graffiti, no, they got a street artist, and they label him as a graffiti artist, and they pay him to do all these giant murals. And when the graffiti community comes and say, hey, where are you from, or where, how long have you been writing? And this person's like, oh, I learned how to spray paint at the university. And it's like, nah, fool, give me that, those aren't your earrings. And it's like, this, you know what, I'm gonna throw those earrings away and make some new ones right here in front of you. And then that's like, shit, like, that's the industry that I speak of, which is the Native art industry, the Native American Indian art, which in a few weeks is the Santa Fe Indian Market. If you don't know, Google that shit. The biggest industry in New Mexico, but they don't talk about it because it's up there with Santa Fe, where they make the laws, and they, and they embezzle all kinds of money for whatever they want to spend it on, which they should be spending it on us and more graffiti, but they don't. They give it to us in little portions.
Yeah.
And they call it the Santa Fe Indian Market, and they call it these different things. And people from all over the world, all right? Santa Fe is number 3 in the destination of art. First off is Paris, sorry. Second is New York. Third is Santa Fe.
Really?
I'm sorry, that's just the way it goes. So I found my niche because I happen to be Indian who makes art. So I'm a native artist. So I'm like, my whole life living in Cruces, people are like, what are you doing down here? You belong in Santa Fe. You're a native artist. And I got offended. I'm like, well, you don't want me here? Like,
I want you here.
Obviously don't, because I do talk about the conquistadors, right? And we just had Oñate removed from the high school. And people are outraged. I'm surprised I'm still
millions of dollars, over $1 million that went into that change of name. When we have people in this state that are living on the streets, that don't have food to eat, not even their basic needs are met. Priorities, people. Priorities, right?
I know. I would have got up there and painted that whole new shit by myself for free.
$1 million.
I would have changed the signs for free. Anyway, but it sounds like a setup, you know, like those funds were waiting to be released when we acknowledged that this fool was not such a good person. Anyways, that's what I'm talking about in you know, in monetizing our, I call it properly appropriating.
Well, when I say that monetizing is not bad, right? Because everybody,
I mean, we're in
but
America. It can't
right.
be.
Well, but here's the thing too, is that the perception of monetizing and circulating resources, it needs to have a different connotation as to it's a divine responsibility that we have in order for us to be able to monetize and circulate our gifts responsibly, right? And what's happening, and I'm not trying to get political because this is not the purpose of this. However, you know, when you hear about over $1 million going into the change of a name of a school where irrelevant, right? It could have been used to be able to provide resources to starving families that don't even have their basic needs met. That's a problem.
Agree.
That's a problem. And if you're utilizing your resources to be able to create more art that is going to create a positive impact in this community, to show these children too that they have gifts that they could be able to monetize and not live the life that their families or their ancestry line, right, lived, because there's so much opportunity on this land. I mean, if you have access to a phone, you have access to a university on wheels.
YouTube University.
Exactly. You can learn anything that you desire on this device right here. No excuses.
Well, that's what's cool about these ancient societies, right? It's handed down from the elders to the youth. It's again, it's a rite of passage. It's making sure that the person understands what they're being handed. You know, you give somebody a lightsaber, they might turn it on and slice their own head off, you know, even though a lightsaber is almost in existence. I'm sure there's some powerful lasers that, you know, that clear cataracts, you know, but these things are real, and screen printing is a real trade handed down from generation to generation. I had to put 2 years of apprenticeship. And if you don't know what apprenticeship means, that means no pay, zero. This dude is not going to pay you for your work and labor because he probably had to do the same shit. And until the master says you put in 2 years of work that nobody would ever do, you're worthy of holding this more knowledge and labeling yourself a screen printer.
Absolutely.
You know,
well, they say that the average master, right, a master of a skill is developed within 10,000 hours or 10 years of work.
10,000 hours.
10,000 hours of work minimum. So if you haven't put in that work to develop your skill, your trade, your giftings, and you expect for things to just fall from the sky, you have another thing coming. You have to put in the work. And it's not necessarily where you have, because I've had to learn this through even like my own journey of laboring and putting in massive amounts of work that were just adding so much stress to my mental well-being. And there's a difference, you know what I mean? But when you're in alignment, which I feel like, you know, now we're operating in more of like our natural giftings and things are more flowing with ease, but that takes time. You know, that takes time to develop your confidence, to have experiences that often allowed you to fall flat on your face multiple times. You know what I mean? Doing it all the wrong way for you to be able to finally do it right.
And having somebody acknowledge that that's the wrong way, you know, is the biggest blessing, because then you can bounce back. Well, why is it the wrong way? This is why I did it. And maybe teach them something, you know? And before this, I was like 2 years, 0 pay, like bigging myself up, making me look super cool. But in reality, the master didn't pay me. We live in the future, right? Where there are resources and there are ways of getting help that 100 years ago would never have happened. So during that 2 years, I found a program that supported Indigenous people living in the city. And that's how I got through half of my 2-year apprenticeship, was that they allocated money for me to finish off my apprenticeship and retain that knowledge and become who I am today. Nice. So shout out to the Native Youth Council that are still in active duty, helping natives come off of the res into this culture shock of a capitalistic community, you know, where we're not taught to monetize off of our church, right? And then you go to Santa Fe and there's a church painted in every gallery that you look at our church, right? Whatever we pray to, whatever we do, because again, it goes back to the romanticizing story of the Indians, rather than the genocidal, crazy maniac extinguisher, because the romantic sounds better, you know, and that's what, I don't know, that's what we continue to feed if we contribute to those, you know, those ways.
Absolutely.
So anyway, that's why I chose graffiti, that it's not accepted anywhere, you know, but nowadays it is, because we have these art districts and these street artists and these people monetizing graffiti art itself, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But if they look up the definition of graffiti, it's not getting permission, it's not getting paid, it's not painting in the daytime, you know? These people that do these acts do it for themselves and themselves only. And that's what makes it so beautiful and so unattainable by the mainstream society, that, you know, then they just outlaw it, right?
Yeah.
Well, they can't even come to the art show because it's illegal. They can't show.
Yeah. How would you, or do you believe that your line of work, and I'm sure that this is why you're doing it, but infects our society with positivity?
Both. But definitely positivity, because there has been scientific tests that colors will contaminate your day, whether it's a bright color, which will make it a good day, or a dark color that'll make it a bad day. They didn't tell me this. I don't care about that, you know? But I know about it now, so I do infuse it with my mural projects that I get paid for, because I would much rather send somebody off on a good day and then insert the bad day in with it, you know, because you got to remember the bad to embrace the good.
Totally. Absolutely.
I don't like the fact that they totally took Oñate out of the equation, because now who is Oñate? He's just a disappeared character that nobody will talk about. But if you say Oñate, the genocidal maniac, people are like, what? I'm an Onyate. I'm a knight. What are you talking about? I'm not a genocidal maniac, motherfucker. Wait, maybe I am, you know? And those are those things that we should acknowledge and keep, right? In Santa Fe right now, there's this huge thing. Last year, we tumbled it, I should say, because we as the indigenous people pulled down these statues, right? That represent the colonial conquering. But if they look around, they didn't conquer shit, because we're still here repping hard and pulling down these statues. So I don't know, there's still a lot to learn and live and collab, right? I know our ancestors didn't get along, but hey, maybe we can.
Exactly. And again, there's really, as much as people want to divide, religion divides, politics divides, color divides, we're all the same. We're all one. We all come from the dust of the earth. We all have a specific, reason why we're here. Why can't we just respect that and get along? Do you know what I mean? Like, there's so much more that we can get done in our world if we just unite, collaborate, respect one another. It's not that hard.
Acknowledge, right? Acknowledging that Oñate did these things, not erasing them for the next Oñate to do over. Wow, that sounded good too.
That's good. Well, how do you stay relevant? I use this word because it means something different to every single person. So it's always really great to hear the response. But how do you stay relevant, unique, and true to who you are as a person?
Well, again, my kids, because they're the only ones really watching me and learning and will ultimately become everything that I have taught them and shown them. So I got to continue to show them the right way, to walk in the right way, to handle situations the right way, and to not freak out and, and teach them a wrong way. But I think that's all we do as parents, is teach our kids the wrong way, because they're born the perfect way. So we just got to try not to mess them up as much as we can with our messed up ways, right? So again, every day I got to remember that, I'm doing this for myself, but if I'm healthy, then I get to keep them healthy.
Absolutely.
So it's not hard at all. And then of course, when you turn on the news and get on social media, there's nothing but hate now in every direction, that it's like, I don't know if we help contribute to that, because some people might take it in a wrong way, like the Oñate thing, right? I'm a knight forever, alumni, right? It was so proud to graduate from this high school. It took 12 years. And now they destroyed it, Some people could feel salty about that, because they were unaware of what Oñate did, meant, and was about, right? And I'm sure that nobody would ever want to identify with any of those ways and embrace them if they knew.
Yes, I agree with you. However, there's always the high road that you could take, right? The higher perspective of it, and recognizing that we're all human beings living an experience, that oftentimes will do things that are not the brightest or the most high integrity, right? And recognizing that every single person, no matter who they are or what level they live at, they're still at the end of the day human. They still eat, sleep, and the way that you and I do, you know what I mean? So that really just takes the pressure off and recognizing that, you know what, that man did whatever he did, but he was recognized for something great.
Well, I'm sure it was a great feat, coming to a whole place and taking over. Kind of like, I don't know, kind of like Crucis with me and graffiti, right? When people say graffiti, they usually follow with my name.
Sure.
And it's a great honor to be like Sabas, the graffiti god, or the mayor, right? The graffiti mayor of Las Cruces. But one thing I love to stress, shout out to the TWS crew that was here prior to my coming here, that did breakdancing, graffiti, DJing, all these hip hop ways and killed it, and still are killing the game today because that's what was in us, right? As youth, that's what we did. And then I came, started throwing these graffiti shows, re-invoking and, watering these roots. And now, you see Always Ready, Repware, you got these different companies from these artists that practice these ways, whether it was illegal or not back in the day, would have found a way to embrace who they are and sustain and feed their families off
Beautiful.
of breakdancing and graffiti. Sorry,
That's
just
what I'm
like I
saying.
did. You
That's
know what I mean? Like, if that's not a formula for success, I mean, at least for me to get paid to do any kind of writing on a wall is just, it blows my mind every single time.
Awesome.
And it's like, I would have done all this shit for free. Will, without your permission. But it's cooler to get your permission to film it, to bring people together, to see the process and inspire the young ones first and foremost. Because when their parents pay somebody to paint their wall, it's okay. Graffiti is now okay.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than, don't do that. I don't ever want to see you with a can in your hand,
Yeah,
and that's the way we feel when we hold a can, literally, because it just that stigma of graffiti gang culture was broadcasted and blasted throughout the media, social media and mainstream media, the television, right? Before the internet, it was all just, oh, you write gang writing, and I'm like, no, I'm an artist, a hip hopper. We don't carry around guns and all this stuff, but some do now. But, there's a farmer's market coordinator that wears a gun, so it's like, come on.
I mean, you can't, but that's the thing, is that we can't define every single person in a category, even though they're a part of a subculture. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just like saying that all men are cheaters. That's not true. There's a lot of amazing men, you know what I mean, that are doing the right thing, that are high integrity. But just because you may have had, a 1% experience with a couple of men that were not the brightest bunch of the, you know what I mean, of the community, then you define everybody as that. And that is not fair. And that's the same thing with any, any person in any culture, any religion, any whatever that person may be a part of. You can't define them as a hoodlum and a druggie and some type of addict or a bad person. It's just, it's not right.
It's not. But sometimes those people announce it themselves too, like there's a song by one of my favorite artists that I kind of grew up on now, but I don't listen to anymore because of, they're still stuck in that same stagnant style, which is money, hoes, and drugs.
Oh yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I'm a player, right? The song I'm a player is like fucking 30 years old, dude. Come on. Does it even still work? Like, come on. And it's like that I guess that's for a younger crowd, right? I mean, when I was younger, I wanted to be a player and do all these things, and now that I'm older and I see my friends still playing, and it's like they're just getting caught up, you know. All the women they're playing with are organizing. And you know, and this is my time to super shout out my wife and partner in time for 20 years.
Yes.
Is the best thing that has ever happened to me, you know.
Oshana. Yes.
Shauna, you know, Shauna Daesh is that person in my life that makes it whole, right? That wrote me a letter every day when I was in jail for some stupid shit back when I was 18, you know, and I'm like, all right, this is somebody I need to listen to. And you know, and in the same sense, we listen to each other and support each other, and you know, and I don't have to be a player, you know, to feel good about myself. Absolutely. Or if that even makes you feel good, like, you know what I mean? And then it just makes me feel even better. I can have a relationship with you and these other women, knowing that there's no real pursuit.
Absolutely.
You know, you could be beautiful, you can be all these things, but that's just what God blessed us with.
Absolutely. And here's the thing about relationships, and that we don't own anybody. Everybody is free, regardless as if we're in a committed relationship with that person. I see people as souls. They don't have to be male and female, and me say I can't be friends with that male just because he's married. There has to be definitely defined boundaries, respect, you know, acknowledging the fact that these people are in committed relationships. And there's no limit to what can be done when you're able to collaborate with people and recognize people's boundaries. And you don't have to live a lie or live in secrets or anything like that. That's such old news.
Stressful.
It's stressful. You're exchanging negative energy that is going to come into your experience as bad karma. Who wants that?
Absolutely.
Who wants that? Do you know what I mean? So, and everybody defines a higher calling or a purpose as something different. But do you believe that your work that you do every day is aligned with your calling and higher purpose?
Absolutely. Again, I can't believe this is what I do. You know, this is my life, my career, my job, my extracurricular activity, all in one. Like if Batman became a full job, you know, full-time job. But you know, again, I can stop it where I want to. I can keep it on one side or the other now, because my reach is everywhere. You know, I can go hang out with, you know, somebody who really despises graffiti culture and hip hop and all of that, and have a meaningful conversation with that person in regards to what they like to do, and then introduce what I do and give them a better appreciation for what it is we do and why we do it, right? Because before it was just, in their mind, an act of gang resistance, which is still low-key is, right? If my tribe is considered a gang, I will continue resisting and putting up, you know, our tags or our icons, our people's portraits on these walls, so the average daily person can remember that we are still here in existence, you know? I mean, Jesus is still around everywhere you look, because there's a picture of him, there's a church on every corner, there's all these things, and supposedly he was here 2,000 years ago. What the fuck, you know? We were here longer than that. Just kidding. But you know what I'm saying? So we should still have that same representation on a daily front on every corner of this community than what is going on now. But again, our numbers in the US are 5% indigenous.
Right.
I don't know what it is actually, but I just learned that Guatemala is 60%. I can't even think of how that would look in America.
You know, it's so crazy. So I had an opportunity to go 2 years in a row to Guatemala to do mission work.
You're lucky.
And let me tell you, Saba, that I was just like, I can't really believe what I'm seeing right now. So the eastern parts of Guatemala, there's people that live in these mountains. You wouldn't even know that they were there if you didn't know they were there. And they don't have their basic needs met. Like there's not um like basic plumbing or anything.
Running water.
They go through severe drought seasons where they have no food, no water. They have waterborne parasites because they're drinking unfiltered water, like from water that came from rain a couple of months ago. Do you know what I mean? That should not be happening because in Guatemala, Guatemala has the opportunity to be a first world country, but it's ran by 20 families that circulate their energy and resources within each other and are not really circulating their resources properly to the lands where it could be rich. I mean, you go to these lands and they're so enriched. These lands are so pure, their soils are so pure that these people, if you just gave them the basic knowledge to be able to grow and cultivate their land, it would be so abundant by nature.
Absolutely. Especially in what is that, the Amazon?
Yeah. Well, that's in Ecuador.
Oh yeah. But I mean, especially in
treasure.
that climate where food is, I'm sure food and everything is so abundant naturally.
Naturally. And it should be like that here in the United States. We shouldn't have any single person in the United States not having their basic needs met.
Well, that sounds a whole lot like the reservation. We still have to haul water and use candles and, you know, and use outhouses, which is fine. You know, that was a big concern with the water rights, with our water rights being taken on the Navajo Nation. The rural communities didn't have any infrastructure, so they put on the table, we'll give you all this infrastructure if you sign your water rights away forever. Nobody uses that word forever in a legal setting. We use it just throwing it around, you know. I'm gonna stay writing graffiti forever, you know. But it's like when you write it on a fucking contract in a courthouse, forever is forever.
Yeah. Like that's written, it's almost like written in stone right there if it's on a contractual agreement.
Yes. But the value of being able to turn on your water inside of your house might be, you know, big enough to sign your rights over just because you want to take it in your house. And I don't know. I've always heard don't shit where you eat. And just having, you know, just that whole movement of that. That's why I still love the outhouse, you know, and having to be able to use it at 2 a.m. was something that you can't avoid.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you have to walk the 50 feet, 100 feet away from the house in pitch black. And you always think a snake's gonna come up and get you, you know. And but just doing that and being able to live through that and I don't know, it's just it makes me so much more appreciative for living in this urban setting, I guess. But at the end of the day, we really didn't need it inside. It worked well. We've been living that way forever. So yeah, take your contract and leave forever, you know, rather than trying to convince me why I should have, you know, plumbing when I could make my own plumbing. I could dig my own trench and drill my own well and do these things on my own without being a part of a giant grid. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right, right. Sometimes
Which
that's a
the grid, I'm sorry to cut you off, but the
you know,
grid is what needs the natural resources to run, you know, our alarm clocks and charge our iPads all night. You know, we need that. We need to extract the coal to burn the fire to light the electricity.
yes,
So
yes,
being a part of the grid is probably the problem. But I, you know, again, we live on the grid. We are here. We're doing these things. So how do we manage to go back to our roots, right?
yes,
And that's why you know, I talk about the marijuana industry, because I think our sole purpose as humans on this planet is to steward the land, right? Grow the food, eat the seeds, shit them out, do it all over again. Every year, we're supposed to do that. But now I manage finances and pay out commissions and blah, 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 blah. And it, you know, I enjoy it. I don't enjoy it, but I do it because, again, the money has to be there. The money, you know, has to sustain. But you know, if I make a little adjustment to growing and embracing my own homelands, moving back to it, and I could, right? But then I wouldn't be able to do all these crazy things and
yeah,
increases.
yeah. No, it's
So,
amazing. And I just really appreciate because I actually met Saba last year, so it's a little over a year now that we had an opportunity to gravitate towards each other and really be able to cultivate and have these conversations. And it's been really great to be able to see, you know, his evolution just within a year, and to be able to see all the projects that he's cultivating here in the city and in the state, and then bringing in other artists from other parts of the country is just unbelievable. And I know that with the indigenous cultures, you guys have some practices aside from now, you know, the oppression that has kind of come into these cultures with drinking and all that, but at the core of who you are, you have these amazing practices that connect you and ground you to the earth. So what would you say those practices that you do to implement, you know, grounding and just connection with yourself and source, what would you say that is? What do you do?
well, I, you know, my family is that, the children. You know, my baby girl is the epitome of that, because she didn't ask to be here, and she asked for my help every day, you know. So just me doing all of this is all toward that organic growth of I don't know, of community work. Um and again, I try to embrace the way we did it before, you know, the the ways and the practices, I don't know. Again, I want to start growing something, you know, like having a field that I can nurture. You talked about planting all these seeds, and when they harvest, like that's how I feel right now. Like from 10 years ago, running around planting these seeds in people's brains and places and things, and you don't know who was there with you to plant these seeds. If they continue watering them, and then they call you 10 years later and they're like, hey dude, I got all these freaking watermelons, you know, we need to distribute them, we need to get them out, we need to use them, we need to do this and do that. And again, it's the community work that keeps pulling me back, because of those seeds that were planted years ago. and we still do them today, right? Anything that I do, I try to leave something, and in hopes that the community or the people that I left it with will use it,
Mhm.
and grow it out of control to where they need help using it. And then they're like, hey, this guy brought it, he probably knows what to do. So they call me back, right? And then we figure out how to handle all of these watermelons, and how
Right.
to make, agua frescas and fucking fruit salads or whatever, right? Just say, what do we do with all these freaking watermelons, So it's the same in how you organically deal with people, right? And I know so many people because I feel like they trust me with information that they don't usually give to people,
Uh-huh. Absolutely.
and I think that stems from the Indian community not being talked about either, right? And not knowing who our brothers are from the reservation that's freaking 20 miles away. You know what I mean? It feels like there's a border like we have on the Mexican side on the reservation. That's the vibe, because once you bring people into that realm, like, hey, now you got a place to stay on the res, trust they're gonna come back, because they have they have the foot in the door, whether they're from that tribe or not, but they know that these tribes are still practicing their ancient ways and respecting the earth in that same sense. So it does come full circle back, and me being of a descendant of these people, I feel like people have that look about me in that way, even though I'm not wearing feathers or claim to be a medicine man or anything. I'm just a crazy Indian doing graffiti. That's all I tell people. So if you tell me something that you've been waiting to tell somebody, I have no idea why, but it might be on a freaking wall one day, because that's what I have to do. When people entrust me with this heavy information that they have never told anybody in their life, I'm like, why are you telling me? And I have to take this information and put it on a wall or put it somewhere, or else it will come home with me, and that is not good. You know
No,
what I mean?
it's that's so
And
good. That's so
I
good.
guess that was my answer. I don't know. That's
Yeah,
what
no, that's amazing. And I'm so glad that you said that, because we are light, like we are attractors of light and darkness. We live in a duality filled world, right? So there's always going to be that yin and that yang. And as a person who knows their story, who owns their story, who also is living in their creative gifts, we have the ability to attract a lot of darkness and a lot of light, right? So as the bearers of light, we need to know how to place barriers, right? I like to say that when you stretch out your hands and you go like this is your energetic field. This is your protection bubble. And that when people come to you and they share their stories, and it might be dumping their story on you, maybe expecting something for you to give them back, whether it's a word of encouragement or just a place where they can place their burdens, right? And like just release them, that we're not responsible for carrying that with us, that we have the ability to establish boundaries even without talking about it, and recognizing that their story is their story. We were just that sounding board for them to be able to share it. We don't necessarily have to go and share it with the rest of the world, but we have a responsibility for us to be able to ground ourselves with whatever practices we take on every single day, to release that as not our baggage. It's not mine. It's not mine to
But
carry.
some of it is hard to just leave, like they're great stories, and good stories that I try to try to remember and take so I can share with somebody else in the same scenario, right? And this is how this person came out of it and dealt with it, you know. So I try to remember some of the good stuff and the bad stuff, of course. And I like what you said about the positive and negative. I told somebody yesterday, I was like, I have no idea how a freaking magnet works, right? Nor do I care or want to know how it does. But trust, we all see that freaking magic happen.
Totally.
You know, I see it with my eyes and I don't understand it, but it happens and it sticks. And sometimes it is hard to pull away, you know? So I treat it like that, you know. I'm carrying this little thing, but with that in mind, if you watch my journey and my buddies, they put it like this. I'm gonna put it out there for the first time. The Saba continues. Because my life is a roller coaster, right?
Totally.
And a few years ago, we established Barricade Culture Shop on Solano, and we brought so much positivity to this dark area that the freaking the fuse blew. And we are the fuses. You, me, everybody are the fuses, right? We take in so much energy, and when it's too much, we blow up. You know, that's when you see the mass shootings. That's when you see cheating. That's when you see all these crazy things that just make people blow up and do stupid shit. That's what being a fuse or being a lightning rod for positivity will get you. That same amount of negativity. Trust, because we have to deal with it living in this time of age when everybody knows our business with the phones, with these things, with mostly social media in our phones. But you know, it's it's cool to operate in the future and in the past, right? I call it future old school. It's just the future old school way of doing things, right? Old school values with futuristic mediums like spray painting, right? From rock art to graffiti, you know, in the highest detail of it, to tell our stories. So I don't, you know, I think just telling the stories in a safe and proper way is the best, because it will attract those other stories that feel the same way.
Absolutely. It's like that Me Too movement. You know, when somebody has the courage to be able to tell their own personal story, it opens up a platform for other people to do the same. And that's really where healing happens, because it's really important for us to release a lot of the stories that we have trapped in our DNA, where if we can express it through word, through writing, through artistry, we're able to release that. We're able to make space for other beautiful stories to cultivate and, you know, flow through your energetic space internally. And it's a continuous thing. It's a never-ending evolution. We as human beings are like onions, right? We're peeling back layers. We're peeling back layers. We're multidimensional. We're multi-talented. And there's always going to be something about our story that we're going to uncover. So when you give yourself grace through that process, when you love yourself unconditionally through that process, and recognize that you're a spiritual being living a human experience, you can really do no wrong. You know what I mean? You tend to make better choices that are going to be of the most good for humanity. You're going to make choices that are going to benefit the greater good of all. So what words of wisdom would you give those seeking a deeper understanding of themselves?
Just ask. Just ask yourself, or ask somebody you trust. Please don't ask ancestry.com. But yeah, I'm going to tell you this right now. You are indigenous. You are native. You are from the earth. And you need to remember that. That's the encouraging words. You don't need me. You don't need ancestry.com to tell you this shit. Because like you said, we are all humans. We eat, drink, shit, sleep in the same fashion that we've done since the beginning. Who knows that when? Who cares? But we gotta eat, and we gotta figure out how we can, really change the laws from demanding people to grow grass in their front yard as a law to growing food, because what you're having them do is grow something only to kill it, and not that's a pointless life, right? Like, at least feed the grass to some cows, not just throw in our landfill that it's taking up space. I don't know. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But some places will demand and will charge you a fine if you don't cut your grass.
Yeah.
Or if you don't have grass.
Uh-huh.
And they don't ever take the time to think about, hey, we live in the desert. We don't really need grass. You want grass, move to freaking Mississippi, I don't get it. But those are those small little things that we need to ask ourselves. Are they really worth doing? Every day, getting up every day. It is a cool thing to water the grass and read the newspaper and drink some coffee, but you could do all that, and save water, and save time and energy to save a lawnmower bill.
Mm.
I don't know, but those are those things that I think we need to really dwell on and look at, and support these people creating these spaces of positive expression, rather than, I don't know, condemning people for being weird. The shirt you're wearing, I had a weird tangle with it, because we all heard all lives matter, all Black Lives Matter, all these things that happened in the course of the past couple of years. And I just kind of bypassed all of it and put all rise matters, right? So who's going to rise up and believe these things and stand up for what is right at the end of the day? That's what's really going to change the world if we try to set out to do that, right? But we all got to do it. Like, we all got to stop paying taxes. Just kidding. Sorry, I didn't say that, but that's what it takes. You know what I'm saying? If you want to see this world crumble, just don't pay your taxes. Or don't pay anything, grow your own.
Yes. Yeah, no, oh my gosh, Saba, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your generosity and all that you're doing for your community and everybody who comes across your path. I am so grateful because, man, over the course of my life, just being open and receptive to connection, to authentic connection, has given me an opportunity to just connect with the brightest souls on this planet. And it's really great because we may say that this world is in chaos and that there's no good humans and all that stuff, but where focus goes, energy flows. So if you're focused on the bad in this world, that's all you're going to perceive this world to be. When you focus on the good and the heaven on earth experiences, that's what you're going to perceive. That's what you're going to get. That's what you're going to see. And that's what you're going to be able to circulate more of. So this is what we're here for. We're here to give you a higher perspective as to what's really happening, and that you are the creator of your universe. You are the architect and designer and artist of your life. And whatever it is that you're trying to cultivate, that's what you're going to continue to see more of. So, Saba, do you have any finishing statements before we end this conversation?
Yes, there is something I want to say that don't hear too much, but somebody cares, right? I probably say it a lot too. Nobody cares. Nobody gives a shit. Blah, 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 right? But somebody does. And those people will approach you and challenge you on all your positive, because that's the balance. That's that magnetic force, right? So these spaces that I create, I call it the underground red road, because that's what I do, you know. But when you go to a dilapidated area or somewhere where something negative is going on, and you bring your positivity, somebody's going to care about that, because they're maybe monetizing or making money off of the negative, you know. So just be careful when you're out there doing that light work, because some people want to turn you off because they like it better in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't. There's cockroaches in the dark. You turn on the light, it's like, but you know what I mean? It's just be wary. Sorry, it's just,
yeah,
you know.
No, it's true. It's true. And you know what? I've had to befriend the roaches.
Hey, that's even great. They're necessary, right? God created the roaches for a reason, you know. So
Now that I'm vegan, I don't even kill roaches. You know what I mean? So they need love too.
I'm saying.
They need love too.
Yep.
I mean, here's the thing too, is that oftentimes you said it earlier about your daughter, right? That we're born perfect, right? We were born perfect. We weren't born with a negative mindset. We cultivated that in the environments that we were brought up in. But neuroscience says that you have the ability to change that trajectory that you've lived in, the environments that you've lived in. You can change that at any given moment, right? And so even when you experience dark people, when you experience the grimy experiences on this earth, that not everybody, like, these people weren't born that way. They were brought up in an environment where there wasn't a lot of light. And that if you are, a more conscious human being, if you are the awakened one, like they say, right, that you have the ability to turn on people's love muscle. You're able to turn on people's empathy muscle, right? Compassion, extend that if you want to see more of that. And you'll be able to plant that seed, and you may not sprout right away, right? But you've planted that seed of love, empathy, compassion, grace, understanding, and that one day that person or those people will come across more of that, and it'll turn more of that on for them. So you have to be the change,
Lead by example.
To lead by example.
Yeah, that's all I try to do. Though I talk a lot of shit, but I try to back it up.
Right.
I wouldn't talk like this if I didn't do all these things, or if I don't plan on doing them.
Yes.
But I'm talking shit at the fullest, so I plan on doing a lot more while I can with what I have. But now I'm trying to extend it to my community, to anybody really that wants to do it. I don't know what it is, just living, right? Just embracing whatever gifts you were given, you know. I I I I I can't stress it enough, you know, to maybe look into where you come from. I don't know. It's hard. Ask your grandparents if you still got them. You know, even just 100 years back, information is good for your soul to continue 100 years forward. You know,
Totally.
because who knows what happened 200 years ago? Could have been. I don't know. I don't really want to. I mean, I do want to know, but I don't. I don't want to stress on that because then you're living in the past, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Which
Absolutely.
now we live in the future, dude.
Yeah.
We're talking. This is like Dick Tracy. I don't know if you remember Dick Tracy, but Total Recall, like all these ancient movies where this was just in the movies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But we're doing it right now. So
Absolutely.
there you go.
I mean, literally, like everything that happened earlier today is already history. Tomorrow hasn't been created yet. All we really have is this very present moment. And when you appreciate the present moment, appreciate history for what it was, for what it's giving you today, but what will that help you create for tomorrow? You know, so with that being said, thank you so much for joining us today. This was an amazing conversation. The conversations are going to continue, and you got to continue to follow this man. In fact, all of the information to be able to follow this young lad is going to be below the description box, and it will be shared on the Cultured Society YouTube channel and aculturedsociety.com. Continue to follow the movement. We appreciate you. You are loved. And just know that you yourself have the ability to create magic every single day. And if you want one of these shirts, All Rise Matters, if you want one of the boarding school shirts, you can hit up Saba's website and you can order from him today and any day moving forward. Thank you.
Sabahut.com.
Sabahut.com. Thank you so much for joining us today. Peace.